I think we really need to be more concerned about deep AI. Yeah.
And why do we need to be concerned about that?
Well, I mean, because there are, I think, scenarios where if there's some vast intelligence that either develops a will of its own or is subject to the will of a small number of people, then we could have an undesirable future. I mean, if you want to read a real scary one, I'd say Harlan Ellison's "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream" will give you nightmares.
You read a lot of science fiction. Is it giving you nightmares at the moment?
It has given me nightmares, yeah.
And are you genuinely, when you've been one of the prime movers about AI, I interviewed Stephen Hawking last year,
Right.
Had similar concerns. Is that a short-term concern, or is it something way off that we don't need to worry about for a long time?
It's going to come faster than anyone appreciates. I think it's, with each passing year, the sophistication of computer intelligence is growing dramatically. I mean, I really think we're on an exponential improvement path of artificial intelligence. And the number of smart humans that are developing AI is also increasing dramatically. I mean, if you look at like the attendance at the AI conferences, they're doubling every year. They're getting full. I have a sort of a young cousin of mine who's graduating from Berkeley in computer science and physics, and I asked him, like, well, how many of the smart students are studying AI in computer science? And the answer is all of them.
What time scale would you guess at?
I mean, I think if it reaches the threshold where it's as smart as the smartest, most inventive human, then I mean, it really could be, I mean, a matter of days before it's smarter than the sum of humanity.
Any concerns that where you see there's a very clear thing we should be doing now that are going to help?
Well, I've been trying to think of, like, you know, what is an actual good future? What does that actually look like? Or at least bad, or I don't know how you want to characterize it. Because to a point that was made earlier, I think maybe by Sam and maybe by others, that we're headed towards either superintelligence or civilization ending. Those like the two things that are like that'll happen. Intelligence will keep advancing. The only thing that would prevent it from advancing is something that puts civilization into stasis or destroys civilization. So then we have to figure out what is a world that we would like to be in, where there is this digital superintelligence. I think and then another point that I think is really important to appreciate is that all of us already are cyborgs. So you have a machine extension of yourself in the form of your phone and your computer and all your applications. You are already superhuman. But by far, you have more power, more capability than the President of the United States had 30 years ago. If you have an internet link, you have an oracle of wisdom. You can communicate to millions of people. You can communicate to the rest of Earth instantly. I mean, these are magical powers that didn't exist not that long ago. So everyone is already superhuman and a cyborg. The limitation is one of bandwidth. So we're bandwidth constrained, particularly on output. So our input is much better, but our output is extremely slow. If you want to be generous, you could say maybe it's a few hundred bits per second or a kilobit or something like that output. The way we output is like we have our little meat sticks that we move very slowly and push buttons or tap a little screen. And that's just extremely slow. And compare that to a computer which can communicate at the terabit level. These are very big orders of magnitude differences. Our input is much better because of vision. but even that could be enhanced significantly. So I think that the two things that are needed for a future that we would look at and conclude is good, most likely, is we have to solve that bandwidth constraint with a direct neural interface. I think a high bandwidth interface to the cortex, so that we can have a digital tertiary layer that's more fully symbiotic with the rest of us. Like we've got the cortex and the limbic system, which seem to work together pretty well. They've got good bandwidth, whereas the bandwidth to our digital tertiary layer is weak. So I think if we can solve that bandwidth issue, and then AI can be widely available. So AI, the analogy to nuclear bomb is not exactly correct. It's not as though it's going to explode and create a mushroom cloud. It's more like if there were just a few people that had it, they would be able to be essentially dictators of Earth, or whoever acquired it, and if it was limited to a small number of people, and it was ultra smart, they would have dominion over Earth. So I think it's extremely important that it be widespread, and that we solve the bandwidth issue. And if we do those things, then it will be tied to our consciousness, tied to our will, tied to the sum of individual human will, and everyone would have it. So it would be sort of still a relatively even playing field. In fact, it would be probably more egalitarian than today.
So tell us just pretty briefly about something that you are really excited about, some future vision you imagine with very advanced artificial intelligence that you're really excited about, that you would like to see.
I think I have thought about this a lot, and I think it just really comes down to two things, and it's solving the machine-brain bandwidth constraint and democratization of AI. I think if we have those two things, the future will be good. There's a great quote by Lord Acton, which is that freedom consists of the distribution of power and despotism in its concentration. And I think as long as AI power is, like, anyone can get it if they want it, and we've got something faster than meat sticks to communicate with, then I think the future will be good.
Eric Brynjolfsson, MIT. I'm going to pick up on the thing that Elon said at the end about democratizing the outcome, and tie it back to the panel yesterday where Reid Hoffman talked about people caring a lot about not just absolute income but relative income, and wanted to get the panelists' reactions to the thoughts about whether or not AI had tendencies towards winner-take-all effects, that there's a tendency for its concentration, that whoever's ahead can pull further ahead, or whether there's potential for more widespread democratic access to it, and what kinds of mechanisms we can put in place if we want to have the widely shared prosperity that Elon suggested.
Elon, do you want to take that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to say that when something is a danger to the public, then there needs to be some, I hate to say it, government agency, like regulators. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of regulators, like, because they're a bit of a buzzkill, but the fact is, like, we've got regulators in the aircraft industry, car industry, deal with them all the time, with drugs, food, and anything that's sort of a public risk. I mean, I think this has to fall into the category of a public risk, so I think that, like, this the right thing to do, and I think it will happen. The question is whether the government reaction speed matches the advancement speed of AI. Governments react slowly, and governments move slowly, and they tend to be reactive as opposed to proactive. But you can look at these other industries and say, like, does anybody really want the FAA to go away? It's like people could just be a free-for-all for aircraft. Like, probably not. Like, there's a reason it's there. Or just people can just do any kind of drugs, and maybe they work, maybe they don't. We have that in supplements, like was kind of ridiculous. But I think like, on balance, FDA is good. So I think we probably need some kind of regulatory authority, and I think it's like the rebuttal to that is like, well, people will just like move to freaking Costa Rica or something. That's not true. Okay, like we don't see Boeing moving to Costa Rica or to Venezuela or wherever it's like free and loose. To Demis's point, the AI is overwhelmingly likely to be developed where there is a concentration of AI research talent. And that happens to be in a few places in the world. It's Silicon Valley, London, Boston, sort of few other places, but it's really just like a few places that really regulators could reasonably access. And I want to be clear, it's not because I love regulators, okay? They're a pain in the neck, but they're necessary to preserve the public good at times.
All right. On that note, let's thank the panel for a fascinating discussion.
Now, I have to ask you about a company that you invested in. As you said, you make almost no investments outside of SpaceX.
Yeah, I'm not really an investor.
You're not an investor.
Right. I don't own any public securities apart from SolarCity and Tesla.
That's amazing, but you did just invest in a company called Vicarious Artificial Intelligence. What is this company?
Right. I was also an investor in DeepMind before Google acquired it, and Vicarious. Mostly, I sort of want to. It's not from the standpoint of actually trying to make any investment return. It's really. I'd like to just keep an eye on what's going on with artificial intelligence. I think there's potentially a dangerous outcome there, and we need to.
Dangerous.
Potentially, yes.
How so?
I mean, there's been movies about this, like Terminator.
Yes, but movies are. Even if that's the case, what do you do about it? I mean, what dangers do you see that you can actually do something about?
I don't know.
Well, why did you invest in Vicarious? What exactly does Vicarious do? What do you see it doing down the line?
Well, I mean, the Vicarious refers to it as recursive cortical networks, essentially emulating the human brain. Yeah, so I think, yeah.
So you want to make sure that technology is used for good and not Terminator-like evil?
Yeah. I mean, if in the movie Terminator, they didn't create AI to, they didn't expect, some sort of Terminator-like outcome. It's sort of, like that Monty Python thing. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. It's just like, but you got to be careful. So you want to make sure that.
But here's the irony. I mean, the man who's responsible for some of the most advanced technology in this country is worried about the advances in technology that you're aware of. I mean, I guess that's why I keep asking, what can you do? In other words, this stuff is almost inexorable, isn't it? How, if you see that there's these brain-like developments out there, can you really do anything to stop it?
I don't know.
Well, what should AI be used for? What's its best value?
I don't know. But there's some scary outcomes, and we should try to make sure that the outcomes are good and not bad. Yeah.
Or escape to Mars if there's no other option.
The AI will chase us there pretty quickly.
What else?